A very good morning still and welcome to the second panel session. And today's topic is really teenagers' truthful dialogue. And really perspectives that we really need to hear, because very often there is that mentality that, hiya, it's a passing phase, they will grow out of it, and then we will connect later. But I want to say today, let's debunk that myth, and in light of that, let's truly listen from our teenagers, different on different topics. So parents, if you have questions, do type them in so that you can hear the answers uncensored completely from my panelists. And with that, let me introduce them, okay? I've got a very pretty and lovely Yvonne. She's in business development with Titan Digital. Yes, but I think more than that, the role that I had for you, right, is she is going to be someone that you hear who may not have had a very good relationship with her parents, but is very open to say, you know what, let me voice up my struggles that my parents didn't seem to get. Thank you so much for that courage.
Thank you for having me over.
Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. And then next we have Ko-En. Ko-En is a co-founder of Transbefriender. And I especially invited Ko-En because in today's world, when I grew up, I only had maybe 3 gender types. But today when my daughter told me, Mom, you know there are 52 gender orientations, I'm like, huh, so many? And instead of coming down saying no, wrong, right, I've since learned to just put aside right and wrong, yes and wrong, yes or no, and just inquire in just being curious. What do you mean? How do you have so many? And what does it even mean? And we will be going into that. So thank you so much. So Ko-En is transgender,
Yes, that's right.
trans, and I think that would be wonderful for you to give us an insight into your experience. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Gina.
And then we have Kayana, the youngest on this panel session. She's Kiana. We have Kiana, sorry, the youngest on this panel session at 15 years old. And I think Kiana, the perspective you would really offer is really academics, right? Because I think we live in Singapore and, that is something that we prioritize a lot, unconsciously and consciously. Okay, so with that, I want to start with this. What is one message that you would want parents to hear? If there was one message, Yvonne?
For me, I think it will be for the parents to be kind, to always be kind. You know when you have a very long relationship with your child for like over many years, you tend to like be more critical about the things that you say. So I think it's always to remember to be kind, not only to the outside people, to like their friends or whatever, but also to their kid.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm just so impacted by that because you are right. I can't imagine, right? I see my mom being so kind to her friends outside and then come back scold me. And then I'm like, so parents, let's learn to be kind, to our children. Ko-En?
Yeah. So I'm no longer a teenager. I'm a millennial, but I work with a lot of youths who are 16 to 25, and their feedback is that once they come out, once they tell their parents that they feel like they are a girl on the inside, whereas on their IC they are born a boy. The parents don't really understand what this means, and the youth, they felt like their parents, they hope that their parents can listen to them on how they feel and what they have to say. Yeah, because it's very common that when children come out to their parents, parents do not know how to react. So the very first thing they will deny it. They will just say that it's a phase, it's a passing phase, but without really listening to their children. So I think the number one thing that transgender kids want their parents to actually listen to what they have to say and to really understand what they are going through, the struggles that they have. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you for that, because what I'm present to is sometimes in Asia, we tend to say, not true. And we tend to impose what we think society should be on our children, even if our children say, hey, I'm cold. No, down here so hot, how can it be cold? And then we sort of like cause unknowingly there to be a disconnect, where after a while the child is, mommy and daddy should be right, what? So I will listen to them. But the more our kids listen to us in that sense, and we get there, the more disconnected they are from who they are. So let's
Precisely.
later delve in a bit more, yeah? So listen and make their truth ours. I think that's very powerful. Kiana, what's one thing you want to tell parents?
I think one thing I really want parents to know is that probably teenagers these days really want your support in things that they do, like at school or extracurriculars outside. I think teenagers in anything that they do, they just really want the support from their parents to know that they're doing things right.
Support.
Yeah.
Even when we don't understand. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I'm getting, right? Because something that I have grown in is even when it doesn't make sense to me, I've learned to hone the muscles of support. Okay, if you want to, and then let's go the journey together.
Yeah.
Even if it leads to a dead end, or even if it leads you somewhere else, we share the process together.
Yeah.
So support, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. And with that, I want to move it to society's biasness, because I think sometimes this generational gap thing is not just an individual thing between my parents, right? But it's a societal thing. So Yvonne, if I were to ask you, you know, one of the biasness, right, is people who smoke, people who have tattoo,
Yeah.
people who go ITE,
I've met
losers,
people.
cannot make it. Okay, so
Yeah.
no, and sometimes it comes out of you know, very outdated mental models. But if
Yeah.
you can speak into that, yeah.
I think I have a lot of friends, and I've met these people when I was 14, 15, or like across my life, because I've been a rebellious child, so I was always like out with my friends, and I knew some bad company knew. Yeah, and then but along the way I've realized that these people are not bad people. Just because they smoke, they have tattoos, that doesn't mean that they're stupid or like they can't make it successful in life. And look, my boss, Zhen Hao Tan, he didn't finish his studies, but look at him, he's 28 and he has a company of his own. So I think that's really admirable for me.
Wonderful. So I think like too quickly, we judge based on the appearance,
Yeah,
right?
that's
See,
right.
like that, you colored hair, must be high kia in that sense. And together with that, it's not just one, you know, it's a whole long list of, if positive, I don't think you have an issue with it, but it's of all negative characteristics, and I didn't even take time to know you, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from that, my lenses are just already so colored that I don't even take time to really know you as a human being.
So actually I had a personal experience of this myself. When I was 14, I dyed my hair red. And you know, when you have red hair, it's like the typical alien look.
Can dye hair in school, one?
It was holiday.
Okay, school holiday. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my dad was very disapproving of my hair color, and he was very mad at me. So like, I think that also like made us a bit less close with each other. Yeah, and then he made me cut my hair short, like this short, and I'm very sad about it. But then the things that he didn't know was also that although I have like that hair and like I might go out a lot, but then after that my studies were still like I topped the class. My studies weren't that bad. I'm like a good student in school. No, but it's like what is his perspective of a good student, and what is the perspective of a actually a good student? I feel like for myself, I'm actually someone who can do both. Like I can play hard, I can play very, very hard, but I can also work very hard for myself.
And yet, in the eyes of your father, he never saw you as a good student just because of the colored hair.
I'm pretty sure there are other things.
Okay.
that-
Okay. But I think, Yvonne, even as you're sharing, right, I think what I'm so present to is how much all you wanted is for your father's affirmation or validation, or, you know, just his recognition of who you are as a person, regardless of your hair color or regardless of your results. Yeah, so
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. And now if we were to move to Ko-Eun, a very big topic, you know, where we talk about transgender, okay? So you experienced gender dysphoria at what, 9 years old?
9 years old.
Yeah, can you share with us what it feels like, so that we experience your internal struggles? And I need you to speak up louder.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it actually happens way before I hit 9 years old. So I felt a bit different when I had the knowledge of gender. I think it was about 3 to 4 years old, I knew that you know how I feel inside isn't what I am on the outside. So it could be a body dysphoria. So I look at myself in the mirror and I don't really identify with that person in the mirror. Certain like body parts and all. I will be thinking, why do I not have certain other parts? Why do I have what I have? Yeah, and then when I
Wait, so for it to be clear, so you were born with female genitals,
yes, that's
okay,
right.
and
Yeah.
you sort of like couldn't embrace those parts.
Yes. So it's only later that I learned that it's called gender dysphoria. It's a condition whereby one's gender is not aligned to the assigned sex at birth. Yeah. So that's the scientific term for it. You can look up in Google, just type in gender dysphoria, and you'll get the definition of that. And so yeah, back to my story. That gender dysphoria manifested when puberty hits. Yeah, so mine came very early at 9 years old.
Oh,
Yes, so that's when everything just gone the other way. The things that I identify with went the other way around. Why did I develop breasts? Why are there like blood coming out of me? That's very that's not what I thought I would grow up to be. Yeah, so that
but was your mom or a parent figure there to help you process things like menses? Or or you understood with your head the signs of it, but there was an emotional turmoil.
right. So it's a little bit of both. My parents did explain to me, the process, what this is about, or what's puberty and all. But right inside, inside of me, I think it's like, no, this is not who I am, and it's just it's a huge internal turmoil to me, and that manifested to suicidal ideation and suicidal attempts. So I think parents shouldn't should check in with their children, when their children show signs of gender dysphoria. Yeah, and then ask them, try to understand what's happening, what's going on, and instead of just dismiss it as a phase, or they will just grow out of it and things like that. And in my work with transgender youths, right, a lot of them go through similar experiences where their parents just don't understand. They just think that all transgender people will end up in Changi Village doing sex work, but that's not the case. There's so many of us who are successful in life as well. Yeah, we are lawyers. Some of us are professionals. Working in a in the working
I'm
industry.
just wondering, why do you think there is such a huge, even backlash on no, you should be, this particular gender, and it's so hard to accept
Yeah.
in the work that you do when you talk to people. Yeah.
Yeah, because I believe everyone has their own beliefs. Yeah, so even although you want your child to have the same belief as yours, as parents, but when your child is transitioning from a child, from children to a teenager, they kind of have their own views already, and they are kind of exploring. And you, as a parent coming in as a disciplinarian, right, it will not work, because then they will move away from you, so that they will have that space to develop their own views and things like that. So I think it would be good if parents walk the talk, just walk with them, and talk to them to let them have that space as well to develop. Yeah.
I think on top of that, parents need to have like a commute. They need to commute with their child on a daily basis, and not just like when there's problems and then they start to talk to their child. Because it's like when a child has face this kind of issues, it will be like, do I tell my parents this? We don't even converse enough for me to even open up to this about them. Okay, they didn't really.
No, we get it doesn't. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
but you get what I mean. So I think this kind of things is you need to commute daily from the start already. Cannot just when it's like there's a problem, then you start talking. And then when you start talking, because in these kind of things you're not open to it, so naturally you will reject them. And I guess that's also why kids or like us don't dare to open up about our problems to them.
What I'm hearing, right, is a safe space comes from the start and in many, many moments. And the more interactions we have, the safer and more accepted you feel to come to me about something so big. And correct. And Koen, what you were sharing is something very, very powerful, because actually what as I'm sitting here, I got present to is being a parent, right? I'm trying the best I can, but my child is challenging me almost without meaning to challenge me on my belief level. And that is where it is foreign, for anyone for that matter, right? Because we all, like what you say, believe. So I can imagine, and I empathize with parents, because can you imagine, for like 30 years of our life, we believe a particular belief system, and naturally we have a lot of systems. And then this young child comes that we swear to protect and love for the rest of our lives, and challenge our belief system. And all this happens unconsciously, right? We are then at choice. What do I do? Do I embrace and understand what it is like to be a human being, to connect, even if it means shattering my old belief system, my old paradigms, or do I hold on to my paradigms? And as what I'm hearing is, if I choose my paradigm, the relationship suffers. Yeah, and that's the truth.
Yeah, I think adding on to your point, because as a parent, you have your own beliefs that sets, way past, the current, situation now. But the fact that time, changes, so certain beliefs you hold does not hold truth. Yeah. So time changes, and what you believe in the past might not be true right now, and what your child believes in is a totally different world. So
I want to add on to that. I so am in line with you. Many years ago, we thought the world was flat, correct? And we were sure it was flat. And yet, with more discovery, we realized, hey, it spins, right? And I think so often, and many years ago, the way they call down rain is to do a rain dance. And it made complete logic and sense for them, because the scientific understanding was reduced. But today we understand, about clouds formation and a lot more. So I think it's really humbling, but for parents to begin to say, you know what, I don't know. And that's the attitude I take with my children. I say, when they come to me for advice, I say, I would suggest this given my experience, but I don't know. Because what I share with you is a best approximation of what I know from my experiences and from facts, what I call facts, right? But the truth is, we don't know. And living, and let's journey together, let's go explore, why don't you tell me? And I think in allowing that openness in conversations is where it becomes a two-way dance, not a one-way march, like one-way march, and then, then kiri kanan, and all, but it's really a dance, and then the whole music shifts, right? Where it's really enjoyable, it's not militant, right? So thank you for reminding us that we live in a different era, and even if we don't, right? I mean, there's so much more to unlearn and relearn, and that is each of our personal life's journey. So parents, I used to always think that I'm right until I realized that no. I mean, and I realized that I kept thinking that way because deep inside I'm afraid, right? Fearful. But the more I allowed myself to make mistakes and celebrate those mistakes is where the more I could allow my kids to explore and find their own identity and journey alongside them. Yeah. And when we talk about beliefs, Kiana, another major belief in Singapore is academically must do well, and that's what we've been brought up with. So how do I want to hear from your perspective, why do you think there's this tendency to measure our identity almost with our grades?
I think in Singapore, it's a really big thing that in the children, you go to school, you go for tuition, you come back, you do homework, and then you go to bed and do it again. And I think that school is a really, really big part of our lives as teenagers because we spend most of our time at school. And I just think that society has a belief that school and your grades determine your life afterwards.
True. School and grades determine our lives.
Yes, I think that's very true for me as well, because you know how I'm rebellious also, right? So when I proved to my parents my grades, right, they were like, oh, they weren't very happy with it because maybe to them it wasn't up to their expectations. But honestly, they really expect too much from me. So
You said you were doing well in school, and yet
Yeah.
it wasn't up to their expectations.
yeah. So my parents are like, they envision me to be the daughter that goes home, wakes up, goes to school, come back and do homework, and then go to sleep early, you know, that kind of thing. But I'm not that kind of girl. So after school, I will go out, I will play, I will eat, and then I will go home, then I'll bathe, and then I'll use my phone until at night, and then I will sleep like very late at night, and then I will sleep for like maybe 4 hours, and I'll go to school and repeat the same cycle sometimes.
I can hear and I can imagine the tension that is caused because you know, like parents have this illusion of how my daughter or my son should be,
Yeah.
and then when reality doesn't match with this illusion, boom, suddenly something bursts. It's either this or this. Yeah. So Kiana, do you want to continue sharing about
Um,
academics
yes. Okay.
and what you would like parents, right? How could we be more supportive? Because that's the word you used earlier.
Yeah. I think the way for parents to be more supportive is that don't pressure your child to just spend every single day studying, and don't send them for so many tuition classes, because I have friends who go to school in the morning. After school they have like 2 or 3 tuition classes. They go home at 9 o'clock at night. They like don't eat lunch. They go home and have dinner, and then they start doing homework and sleep at night like really late, maybe 2 a.m. after finishing their homework. And they wake up at 6 a.m. to go to school again, and then they just spend their entire lives studying, and they have no breaks. And I think that shouldn't be the way that we're supposed to live our lives, because I mean, we're teenagers, we're still young, we still have a lot of life ahead of us, I hope. And I just feel like we should like get a chance to like explore, find our hobbies, find ourselves really, and like experiment with other things instead of just spending all our time and energy at school.
I hear, and what comes to mind, right, is this image like kids want to do something, parents want something else. So now I want to ask, right, if your parents keep nagging and repeating the same message, what do you think your parents are trying to tell you, Yvonne?
Okay, so I think to add on to that, right, when parents they themselves have gone through a certain education route, and then they will expect their child to fall under the same category as well, maybe to go to a prestigious school like them, or like to attend uni. But even parents who has never been to uni before would also ask their child to go uni for themselves, you know. So I feel like it's not fair because we don't get to dictate how we want to live our life. Like, for example, I have friends who have a passion in art, and there's some schools, you know, that provides this kind of art classes and diplomas and degrees. So I think parents should be supportive. I know these are like private schools in Singapore, so they're a little bit more expensive, but passion over like the certificate that the parents expect them to have.
I understand. So what do you think, why do you think, like, what do you think parents want teenagers to hear if there is a deeper message, right? When they say, do well in your studies, don't mix with bad company. And they keep repeating that, not in the exact words, but in many different words, right? What do you think your parents are trying to get at to you?
They're asking for too much.
Sorry, what?
They're asking for too much.
Okay. So you are not listening to what the parent is asking for, but when they say that, what you hear, very powerful. What you hear is that's too much. And because it's too high a standard, and I'm not going to meet it, I'm not even going to play your game. So you just literally walk out or go somewhere else where you can win.
Yeah, because I know, like when I was 14, I already know like how I envision myself to be in like the coming years, and I did follow through my path, because for myself, I like to have milestones on my own, and when I actually achieve that, I feel very proud of myself. But all this is also because of myself. I have this and where I am now because of myself, and not because of my parents, because they were not supportive of me. So just now you were talking about how you're always very open with your kid, and then let's journey together, right? But I think for a lot of teenagers in Singapore, the parents would often just neglect them and let the kid just suffer on their own. Yeah, and being suffering on their own doesn't mean like just leaving them be, because I'm pretty sure a lot of parents would keep nagging at them, but that's also one way of like neglection.
I hear what you're trying to say. And yeah, so I'm thinking in my head, which one is worse, neglect, like leave you to your side, cold storage you, or neg you, which is heaping negative accusation, so to speak. Cohen, I want to ask, I think what your parents are saying is sort of, be like everyone else, don't be so difficult. Am I right? In the many messages in the early days.
Yeah, I mean, coming from my generation, a lot of our parents actually want us to fit in. It's like they want you to sit down. Don't stand up. Don't question so much. Just be like everyone else, and your life will be easier. But that's not the case right now. I think Kiana and Yvonne would agree with me that the more you sit down and keep quiet, right, the more you will lose out. You need to stand up, and voice out. Then people hear you, people acknowledge you, and yeah, you will go further. Yeah.
Thank you for redeeming the voice, right? Because I think very often, because I'm the parent, my voice louder, I'm bigger, so what I say counts. But we forget, right, that everyone was born with a voice, was born to contribute, to have their own unique identity. So thank you for reminding us to not subdue our children's voice, no matter how soft
I
it
agree.
is.
For myself, I like to tell my parents, I grew up already, let me be, or like, don't be so strict on me. So I said that when I was 14, I was 16, 18, and when I'm 20, so like this year also. Yeah, but I think it helps because like, they know that they're controlling me too much already for my age and like where I am now. So then they will start to slowly let loose bit by bit. Yeah.
And
I
also
hear you.
keeping quiet. You're trying to tell them that they will grow up, also keeping quiet and all. And when they enter the workforce, that's not going to help. In a meeting, you can't just stay quiet and just listen. You have to voice out if something is not right. So it does, affect your child when in the future if they how they approach things, in a certain way. Do they keep quiet or do they voice out? That's gonna determine in their work as well.
I hear. I think it sounds like the way we are bringing up our children, it seems a bit outdated because children are meant to be seen and not heard. That is something of the yesteryears, right? And in today's collaborative or critical thinking skills that are to be celebrated in the new era, it doesn't serve at all. And in fact, the children may not have the muscles or even the confidence to even voice up anymore, having been suppressed through the first 20 years of my life. So thank you for sharing that. Kiana, be the best you can be. You know why I send you for so many tuitions? So that I can push you and stretch you and be the best you can be. But in parents just doing that, what do you think parents are trying to say?
Well, I can't really speak for the parents, but from the teenagers' perspective, it kind of feels like they're just pushing us to go for more tuition classes, go for extracurricular classes, just so we can have more like certifications so that we have more opportunities. That would be in the more positive way. I'm not gonna say so specifically or so negatively, but I have friends who definitely have parents who push them to do these things, so the parents get bragging rights among their friends. But I think that parents sometimes really just need to kind of be more laid back and calm down a little bit, because they push us a bit too hard sometimes, and then that's not really going to help us as teenagers, because we need the freedom at this age, I think, to find ourselves. Like I said just now, we need like space to be ourselves so we can actually develop into our own person and not just be a replica of our parents.
Wonderful. Individuating, that is a term where, and actually every parent's secret hope is that you become a better version of me, right? That's it, right? And we tend to forget, right, that every child is unique and each your own sovereign beings, right? With choices to make a whole life for you to lead, not for me to lead. I live my life and you lead yours, right? So why do you think it's so hard? Because as I asked, what you want, what your parents want. Why do you think it's so hard for parents and teenagers to hear each other, Yvonne?
For me, I think it's different beliefs. So, my parents, they are more traditional. They will think like more constrictively, I would say.
More
So,
conservatively.
yeah, so for myself, I'm very rebellious, but then because I don't have my parents' support, so often times I would rely on my friends for support.
You brought up something very interesting. You keep identifying yourself as I'm more rebellious. It's almost as if, that term came about because what you wanted didn't match with what your parents want. You know what I'm trying to say?
Maybe it's
But
because
actually, if your parents had been more accommodating, accepting of you for who you were, that's not you being rebellious, that's you being you. That's you speaking up for who you are, not succumbing to what people want you to be or to do or
That's
to
true.
say.
But I mean, after all, they're my parents, right? So that's why like their words of criticism actually hurts me a lot, especially when we don't talk much, and then the only things you say to me are things that are very mean, and it's not very nice for you to say that to your own child. That's why going back to the key message that I want parents to hear is to be kind to your child. Like, it's like even when you tell jokes to them, they'll just scold you because it doesn't make sense.
I saw here because earlier you said the one thing you feel is belief, right? A different belief system. So no wonder your joke, not funny to me, in that sense. But then, and how probably parents can begin to put aside our beliefs, because I think by the age, the one with a lot more beliefs is the parent, right? The child is born on a clean slate with very little, and is just being socialized into this world, right? And discovering who they are. Yeah. And with Cohen, I want to ask you, why do you think it's so hard for parents and teens, right, to hear each other?
Right. I agree with Yvonne. And out of the belief, right, there are expectations. So there are expectations, of a child, of how they want their child to be in the future. But when it turns out not to be the case, I think that bridge has, has collapsed. You stop listening to each other. So if you can have talk to your children about your expectation, hear them out, and also ask them whether this expectation is it reasonable for them to reach.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Wonderful. I like in exactly what you're saying. I'm so present now. To this is a child in front of me, my child, and I could connect with this child or be right and connect with my expectations or my beliefs. And holding on to any of this too will cost me this relationship with my child in the here and now. And I think very unconsciously, a lot of parents hold on to this too, because that's the only thing we know. Okay, it's not it's not to disconnect, but I think parents also, I mean, from a parent's point of view, we are sad and we are hurt and disappointed, and very often it comes out as anger. So very often, right? Because anger is a more acceptable emotion to show. Vulnerability of my pain, my sadness, my regrets, not so nice to show. So I hide them under the iceberg and lash out because it's easier to tell you what, but deep inside, I'm hurting from the disconnect as well. Yeah, so
I think it's also because of expectations. That's why you tend to feel more vulnerable, more sad and angry. I mean, it's normal to have expectations, but just don't put it too high up, because not every child can reach that bar. It's very pressurizing for that child.
Yeah, and I think communication is also a key. Yeah, because if you have belief, you have expectation, but you don't communicate that to your children, I think it's gonna destroy the relationship instead.
Wonderful. And here we have a question, Kiana. Parents naturally want the best for our child. We always, really. How do we show our love without coming across as controlling? Because just now you mentioned, give me space, give me my freedom. So how?
I think that in order to show your love, you should spend time with your child, talk to your child, like they were saying. Communication is really an important part about any relationship in general. I think spend time with your child, listen to your child, and really, even if you don't understand, just try to provide that support in any way possible. Like, if your child has, say, dreams to become, I don't know, like an art student, like she was saying, Singapore doesn't have that many options for art. So send your child overseas or find other options online.
With that, I want to bring in the strawberry generation mentality, because I think that's one of the other huge one where, so to that, the parent, you think I print money on trees, I send you overseas, and I think that's a reflection of they are worried, they are concerned. Do they want to give you? I'm sure if they were multimillionaires, they would give you what you wanted. Maybe, maybe not, I'm not sure. But sometimes it's because of my own scarcity that I get triggered and then I lash out. So would you think that you are considered the strawberry generation?
I don't think.
No? Okay, no, I heard the no's of one and then no. Okay, share, come.
Because
Why?
for myself, I've been hustling since I was 14. So I've been working like odd jobs, part-time jobs, and I've been like supporting myself on that end, like in terms of becoming independent. Yeah, and in terms of studies and all, I don't really have anyone to turn to, especially when you're in the polytechnic, right? It's not like a syllabus where you can ask how to do this math question. You can't ask like a lot of genius that, right? And my course was media and communications, so it's very creative. And what is the right answer to creative? There's no right answer to creativity, so it's really very hard. That's why I feel like I don't associate myself with the strawberry generation, because I've been through a lot. Despite my parents always telling me I eat salt more than you eat rice, but I feel like for my age, I have been through a lot of things that many other child have not been through. Yeah.
I got it. So you definitely don't think you're soft.
No.
Okay.
I'm tough.
Okay. Very good.
I agree with you, because we have our own struggles that the parents may not know. Yeah. So we might seem as though we haven't been through a lot, but in fact, what they don't know, sorry, what they know may not be what they just seem, they just don't know what the children is going through.
Yeah.
So why we seem like strawberry, right? Sometimes we are just empathetic, right? We are much more willing to listen to one another. We are much more sensitive of another's feeling. So that's why sometimes when there's certain things that we know that we can't do, but the generation before us, they have been doing it. Yeah, you know where I'm going, right? It's because we know how it feels like. We have seen it, how someone suffers through it.
Wait, I don't
Yeah.
understand. So what you're
Right.
saying is somebody who chooses to not stay true to themselves and live, is it something like that?
Oh no, okay. So I'm referring to certain things that they may be a taboo for the what we call the strawberry generation. The older generation, they think that they are tougher and all. But the fact is that we are more empathetic. Yeah. So we know that once you do this, certain things might hurt someone else. Yeah, we don't do it. It's not that we cannot do it. Yeah.
And on top of that, right, on the media that we see is different from the media that they see because of like feed content. So I think for us, most of us, it's always like for women by women, like by supporting each other. Like if you need a safe space to talk about your mental health, there is a chat box for you. We have like a lot of support system for us, for ourselves. And even in school, we talk to our friends. For myself, I talk to my friends more than I talk to my parents, because my friends are my support system and how I've been able to carry myself throughout. So I think that's why like we are labeled as strawberry generations, because we are soft, but we know how it feels.
Yeah.
To add on
So
to that, I think we're not really like strawberry generation. I think it's just because we're more open and more accustomed to things nowadays compared to the older generation. I think that's what they were trying to say. And also, like our generation, a lot of us are online. I mean, most of us are. There's of course some exceptions, but most people are like on Instagram, TikTok, everything. We can find everything online. So I think that we kind of learn things that way instead of like listening to the older generation. So our way of thinking is much different than theirs. So I think that's what makes us different, and that's why the older generation likes to call us strawberry generation, but we're not. We just have a different way of thinking.
I'm just nodding and listening. You wanted to say something?
Oh no.
Go on.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, yeah, right now mental health is like a big topic. And it isn't the focus, 10 years or 20 years ago, but right now it's a big thing because a lot of us we suffer from a certain form of like mental illness, or if some of us is going through something in their life that's not pleasant, and we are more willing to seek help.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that may seem like we are showing our vulnerabilities, our weakness. That may seem like we are weaker, but in fact, I'm sure the older generation, they went through that as well, and they don't seek help. So they perhaps they lash out in different way. They show their anger in different way.
Or perhaps that's also why they say it's just a passing phase, because it will go away soon enough, but it's different.
Wonderful. I love what you're sharing, because what I'm getting right is almost as if okay, it's like there's this alienation from like who my child really is, and from my imagination, my expectation, or my beliefs, right? And because of that, that disconnect, right, sort of like creates a lot of terms. So I think, I mean, to be very frank, you think you're persevering enough, right? But I think I mean, in just a broader sense, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think my parents grew up in a generation where they were concerned with baseline security and food, and social needs were not their priority, because if I can't even survive, what social connection, But then I think as affluence in a society increases, we move up, right? Where now it's about social connection. Mommy, speak to me, connect with me. I want, in the past, no, you got no food. My mom always tell me, hiya, you're so fortunate. Last time I had to eat porridge with black sauce.
Oh my god, yeah, my parents say that also.
and then in the mind, last time is last time. Last time, police officer wear shorts, not pants, right? So, but I think that's one. And I think as a society, we have moved up the ladder where, Cohen, we are talking about self-actualization. And you also mentioned it, Kiana, and you, where it's about who I am, right? Because at the apex, right, of Maslow's hierarchy, it's a giving, or it's an expression. My job, what I do, is an expression of who I am. It's not just surviving life anymore, but it's really living life, and I think quite a lot of parents may not understand that we have moved. Yeah, and we will continue to move. And I think in different families, we move at different levels, right? Across the world, for that matter, there are still countries that are still struggling, third world countries. Yeah. And I want to ask us, so now going deeper behind the message, right? Initially, I wanted, how to connect? Okay, so we have this question. As teenagers or young millennials, everyone seems to have busy professional schedule. How do you connect with your parents? Do you even allocate a calendar time and slot us in, or no?
For myself, I don't think I should answer this because I don't really connect with my parents that much. But sometimes when I come home from work, I will like go to them and talk to them. So I have 3 dogs and 2 birds. My parents recently bought like 2 birds. So I think the bird is also like part of why we connect a bit more, because
We talk about the bird.
we don't really talk about the bird. It's just like I can play with the bird, but I'm not confined in my room. So like I'm in like a living room or like in their room. Yeah, but then I know a lot of my friends and my peers, they like to have dinners or like lunch on Sundays with their family. So like they set a day, like Sunday is family day, and then they'll go out and have dinner with them.
I can definitely relate to that because my family is quite close, and I think we're all pretty busy with like school and work and stuff. So I usually have to stay in school until about 7:30 on weekdays every day, and then I get home at about 8:30 or 9. So then I don't get to have dinner with my family on weekdays, but usually on the weekends, like Saturday or Sunday, we usually have meals together, and then Sunday night sometimes we spend time and watch a movie together. So I think that that's usually how we spend time together, and that's like a good way to connect with your family.
Would I be right to say, right? Because I'm hearing two ends of the spectrum. Would I be right to say it depends on the quality of the connection, right? Like, and Yvonne, can I even assert now that if you, that what you want now is to connect with your parents, even now, even though it's so strained, is that what you would love to have? Or to you now, too hard already?
Yeah, I feel like I've been trying for the past few years, and then now that I'm older, and I feel like there's really like no point trying, because if they cannot make an effort to try to connect with me, then like why should I do it when I've been trying so hard for the past few years of my life, even when like I know I really messed up when I was younger, but look at me now, I'm doing so much better, and like I'm for myself at my age, I would say that I'm quite successful.
So if your parent were to regret, let's say one day they ping or they listen to this example and they are like, yes, I've been holding on to my beliefs and my expectation, and maybe they are out, surviving, right? Life. What is there that they can do to reconcile the relationship?
I've not thought about this, but I think it's really quite hard lah, because you left me in the dark, you left me alone for so long, and now you want to like come back. I mean, it's just like, I'll just take an example of an orphan lah, like maybe their parents abandoned them when they were a child, and then when they grew older, and then they come back to find the child. It's like, why would you come back and like claim the credit, like but you've never been there for me, It's like, it's so weird to call you my mom or my dad when you've not been acting like one. It's just a title.
I hear you. So I acknowledge, and my statement to that would be, yes, I may not have for the past 20 years, but while you are alive and I'm alive, we could create new memories for the next 60 years. I mean, I'm just thinking aloud now. Would that be something that you might be open to explore? Because I think in the first 20 years, in whatever decisions I may have done to have hurt you, there were reasons. I'm not saying they are valid. I'm just saying that we are all as human beings trying our best, right, to do what we know best. And often the intention may not land the way I originally wanted it to. And that's how we are hurt, right? I mean, even with friends, sometimes you say something as a joke, your friend gets upset and you're like, oh no, I didn't mean it, but there's enough of that emotional tank for you to, next time, But sometimes with parents, I acknowledge that many parents haven't built enough of that. But then now they reach a point of like, Eureka, I got it, right? What is something, what is something parents can do to show that they genuinely want to reconnect again?
I think this kind of thing about like building relationship and building trust, it's like you should do it early. You shouldn't like wait until like it's too late for you to like try to reconnect, and then like by the time your kid is probably like well off and doing something better on his own already, So I think it's always to start early lah.
I understand. So Cohen, I want to ask you, is it ever too late, you think?
No, I don't think so.
Why?
I'm so sorry about
It's
No, go ahead.
It's part of the work that I do with transgender youth. So we do connect with parents as well as children of transgender children. We be the mediator. We are the we facilitate the conversation between the parent as well as the children. Yeah, and then sort of like try to breach the relationship. Yeah. So we have youth as late as 25, some 30 years old come to us. They want to build a relationship with their parents, but they do not know how. And sometimes you need someone else to help you with that.
Mediate.
To mediate. I think that's very important. So I think if you are a parent and you want to connect with your child and you have never done this, I think the wise thing to do is to seek help. Sorry. Yeah. Seek professionals help. You can have a counselor helping you out. So yeah, just reach out.
Actually, I would disagree on that, because it's also like your parents, like what they think and their perspective on the counseling. So I did went to counseling. I did try counseling with my father, because he decided to go counseling, and then after like many sessions, he just didn't want to go anymore because he said that I was victimizing myself to the counselor. Like when I'm actually the bad person, I guess. Yeah. So, counseling didn't work. Getting professional advice didn't help, and I don't know what I could do anymore to help salvage this relationship lah. And I also don't want like when they get a little bit more old and then they use their age as like a factor to be like, oh, I'm getting old already, let's reconnect before like, you know.
Yeah, I hear you. Because I think for your case, your father goes in with an expectation that it might
probably.
change you, but that's not the right way to do it. He has to come in a clean state. He needs to have a open mind. Sorry. Yeah, he can't expect that through this counseling you will change, and he himself he don't want to change. So that's a wrong approach.
Yeah, of
in
course.
going to
That's
counseling.
why after that I'm just like I still try to talk to him on a personal level through text. I give up.
So, Yvonne, this is where I want to say something, right? Often it has to do with timing, right?
Yeah.
Where you were ready for the first 20 years of your life. You were not just ready, but you were hungry to connect. And they may not have been ready. Like even boyfriend, girlfriend lah. You may meet a perfect mate, but that person is not ready to commit. Then what do you choose? Do you wait indefinitely, or do you just move on with maybe a second rank person, but make a life together because that person is ready? So I think it's about timing. Why I say that is, even for me, really, growing up, my years with my mom was horrible. I mean, my father tried to mediate. So internally, right, we had a mediator. He was a neutral person. But I remember it was so bad. It reached one point where I look at her and he said, so he will say, so let's say you're my mama, state your point. So she blah, 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 blah. Look at me. Now state your point. So I looked at her and I said, I'm done. And I reached the point, right, where I was so tired now of having to explain myself that I said, I don't care, in worse words, right? I don't care what she has to say anymore. I don't care about the relationship. And I walked away. But Yvonne, can I tell you the truth? If I were to be honest with my emotions, as I walk away, I was tearing. And then when I go to my room where no one can see, I'm like, why am I crying? I mean, if I don't care, why am I crying? And I really connected that it's not that I don't care. It's I don't know how to care. I reach my wits end where I don't know what I can do to reconnect anymore. I tried all I can. And it's a helplessness. It's like I've tried so hard. I've been so exhausted emotionally. I am hurting too. And because I'm of my pain, so it's my pain speaking, not me, right? I don't care. I don't care for the relationship. Say whatever you want. But so then, I talk about timing because I think, yes, I get the first 20 years of your parents' life, of your life, your parents were not ready. But like what you say, right? When they use age, now you may not be ready and they may become ready, So I think it's a journey that we each take through our lives, right? Like even for Cohen, I think initially your parents were not ready, except that they didn't take 20 years, right? It was a bit shorter. Their disconnect, they chose to remove and yours, you had the luxury, Kiana, of having parents who were willing to release their mindset, their belief, their expectation to allow you to add value to their lives. Yeah. So in closing, I just want to ask, what's one short advice you want to leave our viewers with? Yvonne, we start with you. Yeah.
It was still to remember to be kind and to stay true to yourself. Be open-minded, have mutual conversations.
For parents to be open-minded and to be kind to our children.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Cohen?
So I think if your child has gender dysphoria, stay open. Do not deny it. Do not pass it up as a phase. But speak to them, listen before it's too late. Because in our community, we really lost quite a few transgender youths to suicide. Yeah. So it is very serious. It's not a passing phase. So do speak to them, seek help whenever you need to.
Thank you so much, Cohen. The value of life is what I'm hearing. Kiana?
I would say support and freedom, because I think that parents should give their child the support, but also give them freedom. Like my mom uses the word controlled freedom. she has discipline, but she also gives me enough space so that I can grow into my own person. I think that's something that a lot of parents should really consider when parenting their child.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. So you've heard from three different perspectives from three youths, and I think even as I hear you, thank you for just being so open, courageous, and humbly sharing your honest perspective. Because the one biggest takeaway I have as a parent is what matters more? Would it be our belief system, even if it's been 30 years of what we unconsciously know to be right, our expectations, or would it be this child in front of me that challenges and tests my patience and poke, so that we can expand? Yeah, see you soon. Bye.